I'm DaJuan Johnson. Welcome to the Think Bigger Actors podcast, where I share with you different kinds of talks and coachings and conversations with actors and industry professionals on thinking bigger. I hope these conversations will help you on your path to success, because I believe success is an inside job that starts with your mindset and the thoughts you hold dominant in your mind. Change your thoughts and you change your world. Your path to thinking bigger begins now. Hey Dennis, how you doing?
Hey DaJuan, I'm good, man. And you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to have you here, man. Yeah, we were talking before this started that this came on so it's kismet. It was like the universe was already, you reached out about a podcast and I was like, dude, I've had you on my list. And I took a picture of it. I mean, look at that. So I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you're here.
Right. That was pretty amazing because I was on the bus on my way to the city and I had just finished listening to it. And I was like, let me send him a DM and let him know that I really enjoy this, and ever since I've been listening to it on my commute, to a ton of episodes. And it's been great, especially to hear from the point of view of when the pandemic first started, those episodes you did. Yeah. I'm like, wow, we've come a long way.
We've come a long way, right? One of the cool things about these podcasts, I mean, we've had some great guests on it, but it's also like a digital or like an audio, if you will, diary of mine, right? Because I'm always recapping. And so for me, even to go back and listen to some of those episodes, I'm like, wow, you were in the thick of it, DaJuan.
Right. It's crazy, man. And time fixes everything, I think.
Well, I hope so. We'll see. Wait, so you were listening to the Johnny Webster episode about how my manager dropped me, which was very vulnerable. How was that? Wait, on so many, I want to hear on how was that on so many levels, but as a manager, how was that?
Man, it's great when you see things like that, because to be able to, whenever you're in the moment of going through something, you never think of, man, one day I'll look back and I'll be able to laugh at this.
Yeah.
So it was just to look at it from that perspective, like, man, here you are now sitting, you and Johnny, and you're discussing this moment, which, must have been rough on both sides. Cause like you said, it's two humans dealing with each other, and, you have to make decisions sometimes.
For the first time. First, we had never talked about it, and that was scary. I was like, why didn't I just send him? Well, Johnny didn't want the questions. I wanted to send him, and he didn't want the questions. But go ahead.
Yeah, he's very he's spontaneous like that, and I love him. Johnny. Ever since I met him, he and I always let him know, like, you're one of those people in this industry that truly made me feel like a human being. Yeah, gave me the time and listened, and and it's been history since that. Yeah. So it's pretty incredible. But yeah, to hear you two speaking and to see where you are at now and where Johnny is, or, in his career, it's pretty incredible and beautiful to see that it's not always about conflict or it being a personal thing, So it was beautiful.
It was a good moment, right? And I think one of the things, if you all haven't gone back and checked out this episode, it really is one of the top episodes that we get downloaded, because I think there's something that every actor, and, I'm sure you deal with, right? And we're going to jump into that, but it's something that every manager, every rep we deal with when we break up or we part ways with with our team. And I think one of the things that we think as actors, we take it so personal, but again, there's somebody on the other side of that we need to understand is a human, number one, but also this is also a business. Right. You know what I mean? And we don't want to treat it like a business sometimes, but sometimes it is a business for that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that even to this day, I still work on myself, because sometimes you have these relationships with these people, and sometimes it's easy to just, get all the way into that and forget that there's a whole business side to all of this, and understand that, sometimes we'll disagree, but it's not anything that's personal or that I'm against you, and vice versa. It's just, creative people with their visions and wanting to grow. And it's just all about developing great communication at the end of the day. But yeah, and being self-aware, being mindful of what the relationship is, and being able to just have an understanding of
Yeah.
what it is overall in general.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, like, again, when the product, if you will, is a human, or it's your career where we have all our hopes and dreams, I think we get it, actors, I can speak for myself, get it a little tied up. And, again, I have said this before, I'll say it again. I love my relationship with my managers, all of them, like all of them. There has been a special relationship with each one of them, and leaving each one or getting dropped by them, has been something that is still amazing. I still look back and I'm like, thank that person for my career, or what they've done for that little, even if it's that moment, that time, those years, you just thank them for that. So that is pretty great. But I want to know, like, about you and your management company that you started, and I want to know, just tell me all about it, because one of the goals I have for this new season was to interview or to chop it up with people I don't know, you know what I mean? And I know about you from doing research, but I want to know more.
Right. So first of all, it's pretty funny because I love Bosch. Loved it since the moment I started watching it on Amazon. And yeah, it's pretty, how life brings you full circle and connects you, with the people that you're meant to meet.
I believe that.
That's something that I truly do believe. The longer that you stick to what it is that you love, and you're out here seeking answers and wondering, trying to get a support system and other people who are like-minded. And I believe that, at the end of the day, we all meet who we're meant to meet.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's, it's the same thing with, managers and agents and all of those reps that you may have gone through. It's like, they all serve their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They all happen for a reason. And now you have this perspective and this experience, and it's all valuable to you because now all of those past experiences have shaped how your relationship is now with your managers.
Right.
Like you said, I love it. I have a great relationship with all of them, and that's all due to everything that you've experienced. And, at the end of the day, I feel that that's life in general with everything.
Yeah. And when you started Varick Entertainment, was that like your goal? Like, I want to do this, manager, like, I want to help foster, bring that stuff in for.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just to be able to be an advocate and to be there with talent growing throughout their career.
Mm-hmm.
I started out in publicity,
Mm.
but in publicity, an actor hires a publicist when they book either, that series regular or that recurring. So you come in, once they've achieved a certain point in their career, but as a manager, you get to be there ground up, And starting Varick wasn't something that, was active in the back of my mind. I just wanted it to come natural, and the right time came, the right name. I chose the name because, one is a street here in New York City, but it's also a street that before I did get into entertainment, I was working a job. And I used to look out that window down Varick Street, and walk by the Tribeca Film Festival and see the movie sets or see the red carpet or see all of that. And, it was at the time, a lot of the things I'm doing now was just a vision. And here we are now, years later.
Yeah. That's so interesting, but I guess I wonder, why not go work at like another management company? When like you're like, I'm going to start my own, like, that's scary out there. You know what I mean? Sometimes, I mean, I get it as an entrepreneur myself, working, but you could have been an agent or a manager. You're like, nah, I'm going to do this my way.
Yeah, it's something about one, it's just that entrepreneur spirit in me, and just wanting, just having this urge and this hunger to build something, prove to myself that, wait a minute, you can do this. This vision that you have in your mind, these plans, you can achieve it. And it's just this itch, this urge to prove that to myself, not to anyone else. It's more to myself. So that's, at the end of the day, that's what helps me get through, a lot of the hardships and all of the ups and downs that we go through in this business. But yeah, man, it's just something of creating my own opportunities.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. You know, you were talking about, you know, go out there and creating content and stuff like that. And random topic I was just thinking in my head, you know, actors being creating their own content or making their own vehicle. But I was wondering, do you feel like coming from the publicity space, you know, in my mind, I'm like, well, you must be able to like pitch and market your talent. So like in these beautiful packages, or you know how to do that. I mean, it can only help, I would imagine, you know, coming from the PR world to this world as well. Right.
Right. Yeah. It's very beneficial to have those two.
Headshot resumes, like, you know what to do with this stuff, right?
Right. It's very beneficial, you know, especially because the strategy that it takes, you know, when you're in publicity and being strategic and, you know, understanding like, okay, this is the outlet that I want to reach. These are the outlets I want to reach. You know, these are the release timeframes that we want to work in. It's very strategic. And I feel like, you know, having that, you know, was great. I mean, when I first started, a lot of the meetings I took, a lot of the actors, they would tell me, man, you know, like that's something that I feel that has been lacking in the representation that I've had, you know, in the past. You know, it was eye-opening to me. And I'm like, wow, you know, I guess you can never take for granted the things that, you know, you experience and just, you know, just roll with it, get the knowledge, continue to grow because you just never know. And you know, once I made the jump over to management, it was like all of those skills it's like a key in the lock. You know, it was just perfect.
I love that. Let's do a little bit of a state of a union with you, because I'm kind of like, you know, I know you're out in, you know, New York area. You're out up there managing that there. And I say that people, those listening right now, that you cover everywhere. It's not just, I'm just saying where your physical place is, but some might not know that. You know, I had a client reach out to me and they were like, well, I'm looking for somebody by coastal. I'm like, well, if you get somebody in New York, they should be able to cover you in the other places, or LA, like I'm covered, you know what I mean? Which I have another question for you about. What is, from your perspective right now, the state of the union? And I ask this question, I mean, state of the union, I mean, the industry right now, like what's going on in your world of like, you know, just tell me what you think, what's going on?
Well, the quick words that come to mind is change, transition, evolving.
Yes.
You know, it's just one of those times, one of those things in life in general where, you know, it's like they say every 10 years, you know, your life changes drastically. And I feel that that's where we're at in the industry. You know, the world is changing fast, you know, especially with technology, and, you know, the industry is starting to catch up. This reminds me of when the iPhone came out and, you know, iTunes and the apps, and, you know, Steve Jobs and Apple disrupted the industry in that way. And, you know, record labels are trying to figure out, well, wait a minute, how are we going to make money off of streaming? How are artists going to get paid off of streaming? Like, what's this new format? You know, how are we going to make money off of it? Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. How are we going to be able to make money off of it and be able to pay our investors and also recover the money that we're investing into artists? And that took years, and still, you know, it's still a battle of trying to figure out, okay, how much does Tidal, Spotify, and Apple Music pay their artists? That's all still ongoing. So for the TV and film industry right now, you know, we're going through something that's fresh. You know, we're just 3 years from the pandemic shutting the world down, and the movie industry changed. You know, people aren't going to movie theaters and they're trying to figure their way out. How do we save, you know, this landmark for the business and
institution, right? This institute, like it really is kind of like that. That's a beautiful point, Dennis. Like, keep going. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So trying to figure out, how do you save that? You know, this is all brand new that they're all navigating. And then with streaming now, you know, I understand that at some point they thought we don't need advertisement because we have subscribers. But, you know, with things, the more information you get, it's just, they figured out there's not much money. We're spending more money than what we're bringing in. So now we have to figure out a way how to reincorporate ads into the streaming, with the fact that now we have shorter attention spans. and people just, so it's a lot of things to figure out. So, and it's all brand new because it just started happening. It was basically a wake up call during the pandemic.
Yeah, because we consumed all the content. We literally consumed all the content, and they were like, what next?
Right. And then when the money stops coming in, you go back and you start to take a closer look at your books, and you start to see things that you were overlooking at a time where things were booming, and that's, and I'm referring to a time where every week, every month we had something new premiering, and all of this new content, and companies started to realize, well, wait a minute, now we have to adjust to the times, adjust to the economy and, the political climate. I know that it's hard to see beyond just the art, but there are investors, there's policies, there's the government, there's all of these things that go through all of these changes, and they all go hand in hand, and it's a chain reaction, it's a domino effect. And, I know that eventually the industry, though, it'll all be figured out and we'll be okay. Like when you look at history, people have overcome, many things. Humans can adapt, and, this won't be forever, but this is one of those times where it's testing your perseverance, it's building character, and there's definitely a lesson in this towards the long run. It's one of those times where you have to be honest with yourself, and ask yourself those tough questions, because the only people in this world that we can't lie to is ourselves. Yeah. So is this something you're willing to go through? This is one of those low times in this business, this industry. Yeah. So is this something that, you're truly willing to persevere for and continue to move forward?
Yeah. I wonder, I think I love that perspective, because what I heard there more than anything is also, this is a business. Don't forget that this is a business. And inside that business, there's so much change. People are trying to figure out how to make money, how to survive. And when I say people, I mean the entities, like the big studios, the networks, people aren't going to see big films if they're not Marvel, right? They're not risking it if it's not like a big, tent pole or something like that. But, I always tell my actors is that we forget that television and radio before television was invented to sell soap, or was invented to sell toothpaste or dog food and all that stuff. It was radio. They would have these commercial breaks in it. So you hear all this stuff, but then you sell it. So if they have all this change happening where people aren't going to, we're saying, movies to see all this other stuff and buy all this other stuff, then the business is absolutely changing. I get that on a business level, but when you get micro with it, what do you think all of this change means for actors, right? That are, trying to come up to a different space, or, what does it mean? What have you been seeing?
That's a good question. And you can go in so many different ways, but it's just, it's opportunity, right? I get it. It's hard to look at challenges as opportunities, but this is a time where it's so many challenges, and we're faced with something that we've never experienced. So it's opportunities out there now. You have YouTube, you have all of this digital stream and everything, and all of these different avenues to get content and create content. So the opportunities are there. And understanding that, there are people that are financing these projects, from financiers and banks, and even people even companies from overseas. And it's just continuing to be creative, continue to just connect with people during this time. Use other ways to try to advance yourself in this time, to where in a time where we're all basically at the same level. It's not like one person is working more than another, because we're all sitting here at this time in the economy and the industry of going through all of these changes. And it's just a matter of staying focused. And
I think so too. I think the business, right? Wouldn't you say, Dennis, like the business, like the quote unquote, if you're watching this on YouTube, you see me do air quotes, but the A-list, or what we call the A-list talent too, like some of the reasons why you see so much of them right now, more so than we probably did, is because people are trying to get people back to watch these shows. People are trying to get people back to watch, go to the movies, right? You know what I mean? And so I feel like a lot of people are saying the A-list talent is taking up all the things right now, but it's like, this is a business. It really, really, really is a business for that. I got this random question for you. I've heard that managing in LA is different than being a manager in New York. And, I know I've heard it's different in Chicago and it's different in Atlanta. And I just want to know, have you heard this and what's the difference? I got to just ask.
The funny thing is that this is the first time I hear this.
Okay.
So it's, hard for me to say.
But what do you do? How about what do you think you like? I think you probably do the same thing. Maybe we'll attack it that way.
As far as, I know that you mentioned it earlier, but when people say, well, I need a New York manager or a bi-coastal or in LA, it's like, I'm here in New York because this is where I live, but, I still cover, Los Angeles, New York, and wherever else, there needs to be business to handle.
Right.
It's not a specific thing where it's like, well, if you sign with me, I'm only taking care of you here in New York. Mm-hmm. No, it's literally wherever. But, that's always key, to be able to connect with people, because at the end of the day, it's, you're in the business of people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're the ones who make the world work. One example is basically my expense is someone else's income and vice versa, so it's one hand washes the other. So, going out to events, going out to meetings, lunch, and of course, submitting our clients on a daily basis and making sure that we're pitching them, especially when it's down times like these, you're trying to attack every opportunity that's out there, and sometimes it'll work, sometimes it doesn't, and like we've heard so many times, and how it's, it's been said on your podcast a lot. It's like, what's for you is for you. It won't pass you by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do believe that. And that's a hard one, I gotta say, to come in that, because you're like, what is for me? Where is it at?
Right. Like, you get to the point where you start to ask those questions, right. And it's tough, which is why, accountability over ourselves and self-awareness and all of these things, it seems like a lot, but you have to really, sit with yourself and make sure that you're, doing the right things that, that you think will help you achieve what you want to achieve. Because it's also one thing if you're just not really taking much action, like they say, like without action, a dream is nothing.
It's a daydream. It's a daydream.
It's a daydream. You have to create action. And I get it. Sometimes action could be not doing anything, because sometimes you have to give things the space to breathe, to be able to manifest itself, because at the end of the day, we're planting seeds, and sometimes we have to give those things time to grow.
It's so interesting, right? I think that I talk about this on another podcast episode this season about actors learning how to float a little bit, float more. And, I love the way you said it too. We have to give some things a little bit of time to breathe, because if we're like sitting there, we planted all these seeds and we're like, where's the garden? Where's like, what's up? And, but I wonder, I know why, coming from our end, I think the thought of, if I tap into that lower consciousness, that actors feel if they don't feel like they're doing something constantly, i.e. comparing it to a corporate job, i.e. comparing it to a job that people do from 9 to 5, or even like a bartending, or if I don't feel like I'm constantly doing something, then am I really an actor? Or am I really putting in my best effort? And I think the answer, like just listening to you say, give it space, might be that we have to stop thinking about this and subconsciously comparing it to what other careers or other jobs are doing. And I just had that realization in this moment that we're making these parallels, even without us knowing it, because that's the way the world is. We got to label it. Oh, that's a job, that's a career, then it should be this. Right. We should be doing this. What do you think about that?
Right. It's tough, because whenever I hear, people comparing this industry, this business to any other, it's a little mind-boggling to me, because it's like, you're in the most unpredictable business that there is. And you get more no's than yeses. And it's just crazy. For me, I like to review the history into whatever I'm dealing with. I look at the history of this business in general, and I go back and I love listening to the stories of, people who are still around, who are A-list or who are, have been working actors here, and you listen to their stories and you start to connect the dots on those common things. And it's like, man, there are just things that you can't skip. You just can't skip it. And at the end of the day, I think it comes down, at least for me and in my experience, is wanting to control those things that I have no control over.
Yeah.
And one of those things is time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, time will reveal everything, and, things will handle themselves with time at the end of the day. And that's the most important thing as an actor, to be able to fill your time. For me, I always tell actors or anyone, the moment you decide that this is what you want to do, you're an actor. You're an actor. You're not an aspiring actor. You're not, this. No. You're an
struggling.
Actor.
You're not any of that stuff, right? You're
the moment you decide on it, that's what you are, no matter what. That's something that comes with experience, self-confidence, and trust in yourself, and in something greater, that things will eventually work out. And you have to, at the end of the day, during those times where you feel like things are out of your control, those are the times where you have to lean on those foundational, values that you have, those pillars that are going to keep you going.
Yeah. Just like Dennis, I mean, you're over here, like, I'm loving what you're saying, and it just made me think that on a higher level, you said that once you decide to be an actor, you're an actor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what you said. I want to take it a step further, because I think that is great for like an entry, right? You decided this, but just like a relationship, follow me for a second, just like a relationship you're in with a significant other, people are like, I'm in love, we're in a relationship, but you have to re-up that love often. You know what I mean? You got to decide, do I want to stay in this relationship? And it's not just this thing that just goes on, or it could fall apart because you're not paying attention to it. You're not, watering those plants. You're not feeding that relationship. And I just had this thought when you were saying that about deciding. Yes, we make that decision one time, but we have to remember we get to decide over and over again, are we still in this game? Because when we are getting all of those no's over and over again, we get to say to ourselves again, I am an actor. What do I want to do about that? So it's like a decision over and over and over again. And that in itself, we could end the podcast here, because that's a beautiful way to do that. Because I don't think we decide. I think a lot of actors, this is why this is big to me. We feel like we're at the effects of everything.
Right.
And so it's like a pinball machine, ping ball, whatever you call it, pinball machine, where we're like, oh, no here. Oh, we get no here. And we're just booming around. And then all of a sudden we're like, I'm at the effects of everything. And this sucks.
Right.
But if you are re-upping every time and deciding, you get to make a new decision. What do I want to do differently today?
Right. Right. And that's why earlier when I mentioned, I said, man, that's where being accountable with yourself and being honest with yourself, asking yourself those tough questions.
Yeah.
Because only you know the reasons for why you do the things that you do in your life, for why you pursue the things that you pursue, because only you know that. I can't know the reasons why you, DaJuan, do the things that you do. Only you know that. You can't lie to yourself. You can lie to me and vice versa, but you can't lie to yourself. So you have to be honest, and check in with yourself at times. Man, is this worth it? Is it worth it? Because no matter whatever you do in life, the challenges will not go away. There's going to be a time where your emails are not getting answered, your phone calls are not getting picked up, the deal is not going through, or you're not landing the dream job. Is the same thing as when someone goes and applies for a job that they really want, at whatever industry, and they don't get it. That doesn't mean that they're not a good, worker or bank analyst or whatever it may be. But once you do decide, hey, I'm an actor, you do have to continue to have that, evaluate the progress that you've made. And that's with reflections, and that's why Steve Jobs has one of my favorite quotes, where in that quote, he mentions you can't connect the dots looking forward because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We can only connect them looking back. So, every year, 365 days, when I look back and I say, what's today's date? Today is November 9th. When I look back and I say November 9th, 2022, where was I? What transpired throughout that year to this very date? And I can see the changes. I see them. I'm able to connect, certain things, this is why this happened. Or that's why, I'm glad that didn't go through, because then this wouldn't have worked. And you start to see things and you're able to reflect. And, that's how you get those clues as to the type of progress you're making. And on top of that, I'm a huge believer that life in general, the universe, your intuition, your gut feeling, it all gives you signs of whether you're on the right path or not. And the universe in general as well can confirm that,
Yeah, I do love that. I'm just wondering, how do you measure success with your clients then? Do you know what I mean? I know success is every individual gets to define it for themselves. But I think, as we look at the listeners out there, I think there is an us and them, right? If we don't book, then they don't think we're successful or we're not making money. And I just want to hear from your perspective. What does success for a client look like to you?
Right. I mean, wow, because I see people go from, wanting the co-star to, suddenly you get the co-star and suddenly you're at guest star level. And then, I've seen people where it's like, man, I want that series regular, or I want to be a recurring actor. And then you look back 7 years and they're doing exactly what they wanted, 7 years ago. And I'm like, that's, when you look at it, you're like, man, yeah, that's success. But the success is really everything that happened in between that time. So to me, success is, it's just, man, if you're doing what you truly, truly want to do in this life, and you feel that it fulfills you and you're happy doing it, and you're auditioning, and you're getting out there and people are seeing you perform your art, even if it's just through auditions, that's success. Because that's where it starts, right? When you say I want to be an actor, yeah, there's that bigger picture of I want to be a star, I want to be on the big screen, I want to be on a series. But that very first step is, how do I get an audition? How do I get a major audition? And then when you start getting those, that's success. That's something you're building on, because now you're standing on that. That gives you confidence. Wait a minute, I can't do this, because at a certain point, that was just a vision in your mind. And you figure out, how am I going to grab that? And then once you get it, you want the next thing. And that's who we are as humans. It happens to me, but that's where, I like to work on, that's where mindset comes in. And you have to make sure that you keep yourself grounded and you keep yourself present, and you have gratitude for the things that you currently have, because there was a point in time where you didn't know how you were going to achieve things to this current moment. There are questions that I had a year ago, and now I've gotten some answers. Eventually you get answers to all of these questions and all of these things that happen in your life as time goes on, and hopefully, I'm present enough to get those,
to hear them, right? Yeah, to hear them, to receive them,
and say, wow, and be able to move forward with that, because at the end of the day, look, whether you book the big job or a dream role, or whether you don't, the next day you still have to get up and continue the journey. So it's all a matter of perspective at the end of the day. And I think that, at least for me, I have to seek that myself. There's no one else that can give me that. These are things, and I just feel like life is an open book, and I know that we all have questions within us, and when are things going to happen, but just get out there, look for the answers, and eventually you'll get them.
I think it's just interesting that, and I'm always wondering with the psyche of my actors, and having somebody like yourself as like industry pro, like I'm always wondering, it feels like nothing else matters with actors if they're not booking. Right? All the incremental success or the incremental manifestation, the successful manifestations, I call them, you call them the things that the connecting the dots. But like sometimes when we're manifesting something that's so far away from us, right? When we get that success, we don't think about those little things, those incremental manifestations that happen along the way to get us there. And this is so far away. We're like, oh yeah, I forgot I prayed about this, or I, asked the universe, or I begged, or I worked so hard for it. And so I guess it's just very interesting to me that actors only think about, if I am not on a series, because sometimes the co-star doesn't even matter to them. Then the guest star doesn't even matter anymore. Then the recurring doesn't matter. If I'm not on a series where people can see me, which is, I think, validation, you want outside validation of it, then does it even matter? So it's just very interesting to hear you say all that. And I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't know if it's mindset or if it's rewiring the psyche of the present actor. The present.
Is that, and also just it's the external, it's the external expectations, and it's easy to feed into those things. That's why I love sports so much, because sports, and use sports as a metaphor, all the time, because it's all
right. Let's see what you're going to go with this. I'm not really good at sports, Dennis. All right, everybody. Dennis came on my podcast to embarrass me. All right, I'm in. I'm locked in. I'm loaded. Go for it. What's the sports metaphor?
Athletes get scrutinized all the time. The public, the outside world wants them to do things, like we've never been in their shoes, but yet we want to ask these things of, man, you should have played a better game. You should have done this, that. But as an athlete, imagine if LeBron James listened to every critic, everybody that told, man, if you wouldn't have made that pass, man, if you wouldn't, but he trusts himself to make those decisions in the court. He's the man in the arena. And that's how I look at my life in general, and being in this business and doing what I love, is I look at myself as the man in the arena. Anything else, anybody else outside that I may feel is you're a distraction. I'm in the arena, and the only thing that matters at the end of the day is the effort that I've given it. I can't control the outcomes of the things that I'm pursuing. I can't control that. So to live in that mindset that I'm going to be able to control the outcome of 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, even a month from now, is insanity. And I would drive myself crazy. So that's why I have to enjoy this moment, because I know that it's someday, this moment right now will be the good old days. I strongly believe that, someday I'll look back, God willing, and I'll say, man, those were the good old days.
Yeah.
And, that's just life. And that's why it's important to, again, stay present. And it is a mindset thing, and that's why, even when a client books a co-star and they're like, yeah, I know it's a small job, I stop them. I like, hey, change that language. It's a job. You booked it. It's your role. It doesn't matter if it's only a 2-liner, 3 lines, whatever it may be, however you may feel about it. It's a booking that one person out of however how many, submitted for it and then auditioned for it. You're one. So appreciate that opportunity and understand that this is a stepping stone. It's not going to be a quantum leap. You're not just going to make a quantum leap to movie star or series regular. I get it that there are these random things that happen. Yeah, I may go play the lottery and win. Yeah. And there will be someone who's been playing the lottery 30 years of their life and never hit the lottery. But on that one day, I may go play the lottery and hit it. Yeah. Those things, those random things happen. And it's the same thing in this business. Some people might get an audition and that may be their first audition and they're serious. It happens. But, being on the rep side, I get to see all of these actors in different stages of their lives. I've worked with people who are in their 40s and they've been in the business for 30 plus years. And that's their first series regular in their 40s.
Yeah.
I know people in their 20s who are series regulars. I know people who are still building in their 30s. So to be able to see all of those different things, I'm just like, look at those common denominators in life, and then just just have this, where understanding of yourself and your senses and trusting your intuition and all of that comes into play. Just trust what your body, your soul is telling you. Trust that feeling. And if it feels like everything's going to be okay, then it will be. And it always will be, because everything that I've been through leading to this very point where you and I are sitting here now, at some point in time, I thought, man, I'm not going to be able to overcome this. But here I am. We've literally overcome every situation that we've faced to this very moment.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for why whatever you're going through now, you can't get over that. You will, and to me, whenever I feel like I'm in a place where I'm lost, there's darkness, doesn't feel like things are working out, that's when I realize, and this is my own thing, when I realize, okay, I've entered a new territory in life, comfort zone. So now I have to figure myself out in this new stage of life that I'm in. Because if I'm uncomfortable, that means I'm not in a comfort zone. Yeah. That means I'm moving forward, and that means I'm growing. So that's where I look at that challenge and that moment in my life as an opportunity. Okay, what am I going to learn from this now? And what's going to come out of this? And that's the most exciting part.
I love it. I love it. Dennis, I hope you'll come play with us in some other way inside of Think Bigger and, whatever we got going on. It is my honor to just like be in your orbit right now, man. So I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing for these actors out there,
Likewise, man. Likewise. Like, you guys do amazing things, and trust me, you're stronger than what you really know. Like, your perseverance and all of that, because it's tough. And trust me, I know that. We know that as reps, it's tough, but you have to hang in there. And, along the way, you're going to have to make tough decisions, and that's part of life. And, and that's okay. But just keep growing, keep going, and, you'll get through it.
Hang in there. Thank you so much, Dan. Dennis. Whew, that was so good. That was so good, brother. I just love the way he dives into giving your career the space to breathe, to just breathe. Wow. That's something I feel like that we just don't do. I don't think we know how to do it, to be honest. I've talked about this before in the beginning of this season, the D12 shot about floating. But the interesting thing now is we have been almost forced to give our career space as of late, forced to float in our career. Once during the pandemic, when there was very little going on for a bit, we were forced to figure out, what do we do now? What do we want to do now? And then again, right now, very close together, very short time spans. Right now, as we're currently going through a strike, and another one right on the heels of it, possibly going through a strike, I wonder what the lesson here is. Here's the D12 shot. Pull up a chair. I'm asking you to lean into this moment, the moment that we are in right now. Not just a little bit, but fully lean into the moment in our industry. Whatever that means for you. Not the person next to you, not the person you see on Instagram, not the person you're friends with, not that actor. For you. I'm asking you to lean into this moment. Dennis brought it up that we have a lot of things to figure out right now. He puts it, this moment is here to test your perseverance. You get to ask yourself some tough questions, he said. Is this something I'm willing to go through or to continue to persevere through, or am I out? Have you asked yourself, am I quietly quitting acting right now? No, seriously, I want you to ask yourself, what are you taking away from this moment? Are you plowing forward and sitting in anxiety thinking, when is the industry coming back? Or, oh man, I'm so stressed right now. What do I do? So you're still in that little bit of that cycle that might have been that past moment.
Or are you putting your head down and getting those things done that need to be completed, like my new headshots that I talked about? Keeping yourself in the gym, working out, walking, or maybe you're filming episodes of your web series like my team member, Nick, has been doing. Because like I've said so many times before, and I will keep saying over and over again, the industry will come back. Or maybe you're using this time as a much needed breath of air. Are you going to go traveling? See friends and family? Take time for yourself. Maybe even do it without guilt. Pour into yourself without guilt. Or maybe you can really put a little bit of time into your investment job, doing something else right now without guilt. What I know for sure, we get to choose how we experience this moment. Our thoughts will create our reality. Let me say that one more time. Our thoughts will create our reality. So it's imperative that we be intentional with your thoughts. You be intentional with your thoughts and what you are thinking, what you let into your space, what you let become your next move, even if that next move is the choice to stand still and just breathe. Be intentional. Lean into it. I don't know about you, but I put a lot of pressure on myself to keep going, to do more, partly because of who I am, my past traumas that I'm always talking about, and they're always sneaking up on me, but mostly because the narrative in our industry is you have to keep putting those 10,000 toxic hours in. I do think you need to put a little effort into your career to get to that professional mastery place, but I want you to lean into this moment. Will you do that with me? Lean in. Whew. That's it for today. Remember, don't quit. Don't get out of line. Borrow my faith in you. I'm rooting so hard for you. I'll see you in the next episode.